It's time to run for cover because in this Roll for Crit preview, we're taking a look at Asteroid Dice. This game will have you throw these large foam dice either at the table and other opponents' dice or at each other. So get ready because these dice are coming at you. Game will begin with all the asteroid dice in the center, each one with a different value of size and numbers, as well as you having 7 cards in your color. These will have a card for each die, as well as 2 special cards. We'll get to those in a little bit. At the start of the round, you're going to secretly choose a card, placing it face down in front of you. Once all other players have placed their cards face down, you're going to count 3, 2, 1, go, and simultaneously flip your cards. Obviously, there's just me here, but imagine all these flipping at the same time. You will now compare your cards to everyone else. If no one else has played the same card as you, you're going to be able to capture your die unmatched, meaning you're not going to have any issues there. However, if any cards match, be it 2 or more, a brawl begins. The brawling players are going to grab the die that they place, so in this case the 12-sided die, and first one to grab it is now going to try and throw it at one of the other players in the brawl, demonstrated as so. So moving on, then there's... Are you finished? Keep in mind that you don't need to remain sitting. You can run around and try and dodge it. If the person misses, you can pick up the die and throw it back at them. Until one player is left not being hit by the die, the brawl will continue. Whoever doesn't get hit will be named the winner. They get to keep the die, as well as take all the opponent's cards who lost and add it to their score pile. The loser may still get a die if there are any left. Now, if anyone played any of the special cards, they will still be involved in the brawl, but they can grab any die during their brawl. And after everyone has picked a die, but before the loser of any brawls get to take any dice, anyone who played special cards are going to take some of the leftover dice. Now, there's only one left, but imagine if there were more based on player counts or just simply brawls. First, the I Can't Decide card will take a die, then the Asteroid players will take a die, and then if anyone else was a loser of a brawl, then they'll take any remaining dice if they exist. Once everyone has their die, you're going to enter the roll and collide phase. The way this works is starting with the person who got the die with the most sides, you're going to roll your die and hopefully keep it on camera. Now, the player with the next small size will continue, trying to hit the other dice and possibly lower their score, or in this case, just roll lower. This will continue until each player has rolled all the dice. Keep in mind, by the way, that if you roll off the table, that still counts and gameplay can continue, so you can roll your dice on the ground to try and knock out dice there. Now, it's during this phase that the special cards will come in. First, let's talk about the I Can't Decide. In addition to getting that second pick of whatever's left after everyone has played their specific dice cards, at the end of the rolling phase, you may choose to pick up your die and re-roll it again if you didn't like the number or want another chance at hitting someone. The Asteroid one actually triggers before the roll and collide phase. When you play this card, just before everyone rolls, you're going to name a number. If that number is ever rolled, so let's say we named the 3, that triggers a black hole to appear in the center with all cards disappearing with the exception of the Asteroid card. The person who played it gets to add that to someone else's score pile. It's bad, I'll explain it when we get to final game scoring. If the Asteroid didn't trigger, in this case the 9 from the D20, that player gets to collect all cards played and add them to the score pile, with the exception of his own card. That card is going to be added back into their hand, so they can play it again, or it can get captured by someone else later on. Return all dice to the center of the table, and repeat the process until one player has no more cards left in their hand. You're then going to take all the cards that you have in your victory pile, adding up the number in the corner. Keep in mind, for every Asteroid you have, you're going to remove your highest scoring cards. In this case, just the 6, but if I had more, it could remove even more points. Add up your total, and whoever has the most is the winner. The Fireball expansion is quite simple and yet very chaotic. Each player is now going to get a Fireball card in addition to their other cards, and when they play them, they're going to vie for these 8 6-sided dice here. Now, if you play the regular 6-sided dice, you don't take these, you'll take the normal black one. If there is a brawl, instead of just trying to grab the one die, all the brawling Fireball players are going to try and grab as many of these in order to throw them at their opponent. Brawls act the same otherwise, it's just there's going to be a lot more dice being thrown around. If no one plays the Fireball card, these dice cannot be chosen by Brawl losers or anyone who played special cards. Now, anyone who did play a Fireball card is going to get the chance to roll all 8 of these after all other dice have been rolled. Obviously, just throwing them around, trying to make as much chaos as possible while also hitting as many dice as possible. They do not add up all of them. You're only going to take the highest value of all your fireballs rolled. So 6 is the highest you can get no matter what, but still with 8 dice, you can cause quite a bit of chaos. Keep in mind though, the Asteroid still counts for every single one of them, so that means it's pretty likely if someone fireballs an Asteroid at the same time that a black hole is going to appear. So if it wasn't obvious already, this is a party dexterity game. Though there are a few things that I learned from my first playthrough that you'll probably want to keep in mind. First, make sure you're playing somewhere that you're fine with the dice being thrown around, be it the black ones or if there are the fireball expansion, lots of these orange-yellow ones. Even if you are fine, like you don't have a vase or something expensive that can shatter, you want to keep an eye out for drinks because this is a party game, so odds are there are drinks around, be it of the alcohol variety or not. So either tuck them away or at the very least make sure they're not near any edges so the dice don't accidentally hit them and spill everything everywhere. The next thing I want to bring up is you probably don't want to be sitting down because of the nature of the brawls. We found it was better if it was sort of at a higher table where everyone's sort of standing around it. So when those brawls do occur, you can quickly grab the die, or if you missed, dodge very fast instead of trying to get out of your seat. So it's definitely feels like one or more of those games that everyone was around the table standing, then that's when they had the most fun, rather than when they were sort of in chairs, because almost it was, with the exception of some people who are willing to go all the way, a guaranteed hit if whoever got the die first. That all said, if you do have a good environment, for example, we actually played it outside where there's a lot more space and a lot more place to run, it can be a lot of fun. So this definitely is one that is rewarding, like an open backyard kind of game. Usually that means you probably aren't too bad with what it hits. Once again, keep an eye on drinks or food or whatever you have for your party. And then you're probably going to enjoy this a lot more. In particular, I won't lie, I enjoyed the fireball a bit more, mostly just because even if 2 people played the fireball card, then when the brawl happens, it doesn't just become who grabs their 1 die first. They could both grab, one can grab 4, the other just grabs 2, and they just start throwing at each other a bit more like a snowball fight rather than dodgeball with 1 ball. It is a bit more interesting when multiple people are involved in a brawl, but that's not a guarantee. You're more likely to see usually head-to-head brawls, at least in my experience of playing it. Other than that, it's pretty simple. You're just rolling dice. It can be really funny, especially with some of the otter-shaped dice, when people try to hit someone else's die and it just rolls around it or bounces above it. So you're never guaranteed to know what's going to happen, but it's sort of just the fun of just seeing all that happen. It's not really about trying to score as much. It's a party game in its core, and it's just about seeing what silly things you can do with these foam dice. This is definitely a great game for someone who's looking for a party game that isn't just sitting around a table playing cards. Yes, you are technically playing a card each round, but as soon as a card is played, and even if a brawl doesn't break out, usually people then are going to take their die and try to look and aim it, and it just has a lot of funny events and experiences that way. So this is definitely a bit more on that dexterity energy side of kind of party games, but that means it works really well. I think in particular with the summer coming out, that would be when I'd want to play something like this. I mean, I guess you could play it out in the winter. I just don't like going out in the cold. The kind of game when you have a lot of great space and where people can run around and try to do crazy throws, dodges, before you even get to the rolling phase, which gameplay still continues on the ground, which I'm sure many board gamers would argue about. So it's very silly that that is part of the game. And then at the end, you just see how things went with a score. And really, it's all about the journey rather than the destination. If you're thinking of backing this, you can take a link to the campaign down below to the project and let me know your thoughts on this. Do you like this idea of having these dice not just for rolling, but also throwing at each other? And what would you do to add? Obviously, there's a whole bunch of dice here, but is there something you think that would you enjoy to add this if you think it's missing, or is this something that is already perfect for your next family barbecue? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. But that is all for this Roll for Crit preview. I can't wait to read your comments, but I'm Will, and this is Roll for Crit.